It is time to say good afternoon and check in with Amanda Lang, business anchor with BNN Bloomberg and host of Taking Stock, which you can hear anyway, by the way, on the Iheart or anywhere on the Iheart Radio network. So, Amanda, it's been a busy week. A lot of things going on. And, it's funny because I had a chance to interview someone who's already now a retail location feeling the after effects of a tariff that's never even happened. And that's because the threat of it happening has apparently scared some Canadians into putting off purchases altogether. Now, you happen to have a chance to chat with our finance minister, Dominic LeBlanc. Give us your take. What did you hear from him with respect to tariffs? Should we be concerned? Is this over with? Is this pick up again after 30 days as originally promised? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, the uncertainty is the big problem, right? And we'll see that show up in the economic data, although we got great jobs data today. But Dominic LeBlanc does seem optimistic that we can make headway. So between now and the 30 days, which is kind of arbitrary, I think what we're hoping from a Canadian point of view is we can kind of move this all to April 1st, which is when the president has asked for an executive order return of sort of a review of trade agreements. And if we can do that, it gives us time to actually figure out exactly what we're talking about here. What do we need to do? What are they looking for? That's been the part that's been a bit unclear.
So given that the minister at least thinks, we can work things out, you mentioned April 1st potentially as the timeline we might be looking at. I guess part of the question here would be how much time does that give Canada, to go ahead and deal with things like interprovincial trade, which the Prime Minister actually spoke about today in a meeting, and to look at other countries, because that's something else we're talking about, who we can become, trading partners with.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to say how much time does it give us. It gives us, we have all the time to do this fast. We can do the interprovincial trade stuff fast. The effects of it will take longer because these aren't tariffs, other than some really silly things like the sale of alcohol. A lot of this is regulations. It's, job certifications. It's things that you could take off the books really quickly, but it would take a little while to take effect. The effects are worth it. We should do it. There's no question, but it's not an immediate impact. So hopefully the impetus to get it done will be there, because I'll tell you, I'm a bit cynical because we've known how important it is to get rid of these for a long time, and the vested interest groups have kept them in place. So I hope we have that. In terms of diversifying internationally, same thing. We know we want to do that. It's just been so easy to go south. So yes, now I hope the government kind of makes it a mission to say, what do businesses need to get to Europe or India or South America? Those are all good markets for us.
I'm speaking of cynical, and I'm going to bring this up only because I know there's no answer, but I thought I'd ask anyway. I think back to when Howard Lutnick, who's the commerce chair, if you will, Donald Trump's appointment, was testifying in front of a congressional hearing and really kind of making the case that, don't worry, we'll talk about this and the big stuff will get done and nothing will happen. And then the question was, does Donald Trump even listen to any of that? Or is his mind already made up as to, he wants to go after Canada? We talked about the fact that this idea of Canada as a 51st state seems to be less and less of a joke and more of, a party policy. How does that even come into play?
These are the things that are the reason why uncertainty will continue to reign, because we're not dealing with a real kind of clear thinker, right? With Donald Trump, we know he can shoot from the hip. He gets ideas fixed in his head. This $200 billion figure, by the way, that he talks about, that's what he's subsidizing Canada. I actually saw an old clip from, I think, 1997 of him on Oprah Winfrey saying that U.S. trade is subsidizing other countries to the tune of $200 billion. It's possible it's been in his head that long. Yeah. We do, though, have facts on our side, and that's, I think, what helps this past week. That's why we've managed to ratchet it back. We go in with the facts. You may have seen that the Prime Minister was caught in a hot mic moment saying this 51st state thing is real. Yeah. We take it seriously. What does that mean? I don't know, but, yeah, that creates a bit of uncertainty. I'll tell you, I've been really proud of how Canada's responded, though. I don't know about you, but the level of sort of patriotism and no, we're not attitude, I think, will serve us really well.
Yeah, and as I said, thank you, Donald Trump, unintentionally for actually, having Canada react that way. Had this not been the case, we'd still be looking at Quebec and Alberta and everybody else sticking up for themselves. But now, all of a sudden, thanks to what he's trying to do or is thinking about, you're right. Canada has kind of, stood up and taken a stance, and that's great news. I would point out, by the way, speaking of, you saw Donald Trump in an old interview. I saw a clip not that long ago when they negotiated NAFTA, right, the first time around, yes, where Donald Trump is sitting describing it as the best trade deal in the history of trade deals. So that was then, this is now, and nobody knows what we're going to get. I think that's fair to say.
Well, exactly. Mercurial might be one way
Yeah.
we would describe him, but definitely hard to predict.
All right, let me move beyond that to this idea that this is going to save Americans money, which is what Donald Trump has been talking about. We know the price of eggs there has gone through the roof. There are actually restaurant chains now in the U.S. Adding a surcharge if you order eggs. Are we looking at facing something like this?
So we're seeing actually a really clever PR campaign being orchestrated on this side of the border by the folks that manage our eggs for us, that this can't happen here because of supply management, which I chortle a little bit at, of course, because supply management is one of the central problems other nations have with us when it comes to free trade.
Right.
It's true, though. We have smaller farms. And so theoretically, I guess, smaller farms might be less at risk of mass cases of this avian flu, the bird flu that's taking out the big U.S. populations. I don't know if that's even true. I guess it just means if it comes to your farm, there are fewer chickens implicated. Over the long term, the U.S. has cheaper eggs than we do. That's just a fact. They have more efficient farms. They have cheaper eggs and dairy. There's no question about that. So I was sort of seeing that this being seized on as a PR moment of like, look how great we are for not having that issue. But it comes with a dark side that consumers are well aware of.
Last thing I want to bring up is what you kind of alluded to at the beginning. So we have unemployment numbers that came out today, which actually look pretty good. How does this portend going forward?
So interesting to see such strong, this is, of course, a January number. So will we get a hangover when, the whole effect of all this uncertainty plays out? It definitely does leave the Bank of Canada in a good position. If they want to keep cutting rates, they can keep doing it. So with the tariff question still out there, mid-March is their next opportunity. A lot of economists still say they will definitely cut 2 or 3 more times this year. So that's good news for people who are hoping to see those rates come down. Yeah,
and I would ask one, I mentioned this furniture store in Ottawa that had a customer cancel a $25,000 order because they were worried that if and when tariffs did come in, they'd have to pay a lot more than what they've agreed to as a price right now. Are you hearing or seeing retailers across this country literally being a little more nervous now than they were, say, 2 weeks ago?
Unfortunately, we are seeing these stories, and you probably saw the story about SheerTech, which sells a lot into the U.S., needs good investment. It creates this kind of cloud of uncertainty. That's terrible news, and it's real. That's real. People make real-time decisions with their money that are always sensible, and so you're basically resolving this cleanly and as fast as possible is the most important thing our leaders can do for us, because businesses do make real hard decisions based on sort of the probability of the outcome. And right now there's so much uncertainty, it's very difficult.
All right. That's where we leave it. Amanda, thank you so much.
Great to talk.